Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Part one of three of our Sandler Training series. We are going to be hosted by Matt Scarchilli, from CEO of Sandler Training. We appreciate you guys joining us. Some housekeeping things. If you guys have any questions for Matt throughout the workshop, this is an interactive, informative session. It's not a panel. So if you have any questions, shoot it in the chat feature within your WebEx app that you guys see on the video. And also, if you guys are comfortable, we'll promote you to a panelist to ask Matt directly any questions that you may have to make it a little bit more personalized. So any questions you have, put it in the chat. And from there, I'm going to kick it off to Matt right now. Appreciate you hosting this session here today, Matt. And it's all yours.
All right, Sam, thanks for that. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice that you could all attend on this lovely afternoon. We should be out enjoying the 70 degree November weather, but instead you're here with me. So that says a lot. I appreciate that. So first, thank you very much to Ignite You for the invitation. I am flattered to have been asked by Bob and Kelsey and Sam. So thank you for that. I'm happy to be here. As Sam stated, this is a three-part series, and this series is it's not about me giving you information. Yes, I will guarantee you walk out of here with information that you can put into use, but it's really about answering questions that you have. So let's make it totally participatory. So when you have questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat box. Sam's going to run interference for me, so I don't have to get sidetracked on the chat thing. As he said, if someone wants to come on live, be happy to chat with you live. So those are some of the ground rules. The best way to get information out of this that you need is to ask. So don't hesitate. What I would like you to do is get in the mindset now that over the next hour, you're going to be able to walk out with 2 to 3 things that you can implement when you leave. 2 or 3 things that you can do as soon as you hang up or hit end or however you get done with the webinar here. 2 or 3 things that you can put into place right away. That's your homework, okay? So that's the mindset that I'd like you in the entire time while you're here. So for those of you who don't know Sandler Training, I'll give you our quick 30-second commercial. So Sandler is an international company. We specialize in sales training, management training, customer service training. We do a fair bit of consulting with companies in their sales process as well. Typically, when we get involved with companies, we're solving one of a few problems. Either super frustrated that there's not enough leads at the top of the funnel, or they could be upset that sales cycles take 2 or 3 times longer than they should, or they get angry that they get in great conversations with clients, and then those clients end up in never calling them back, and they just disappear and they get ghosted. Those are the types of issues we address. If there's anything in there that we should have a further conversation about, my information is on the screen there. I'd be happy to chat with you at another time. Okay, so you were all given a little bit of pre-work to do. So the pre-work was to print up 2 copies of the numbers game. So that looks like this. So you should have 2 copies of that available now, and 1 copy of the sales process. All right. So for now, we're going to play a little game. We're going to play the numbers game. So I'm going to give you, the instructions. I'm going to go slow because I don't want to have to repeat them because it'll be hard to repeat. So here's the game. You are going to have 2 minutes to circle in order from 1 to as many as you can. So it's got to go in order, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're going to circle them on your piece of paper. That's why you needed to print it. Okay. You know what? It's a short period of time. I'm not going to give you 2 minutes. I'm going to give you 90 seconds. So let me get my stopwatch out here, get it to 90 seconds. And I'm going to tell you guys that you can start going now. 1 to however many you can.
May I pause that clock, Matt? Just want to let the audience know, if you didn't get the email, I have the link in the chat box to the Google Drive where you can download those worksheets.
Very good. Thanks, Sam. Well, you guys got some extra time because Sam interrupted us there, so you're lucky. But time does go fast. Make sure you circle them in order. No cheating. If you don't have it printed out in front of you, do it visually. It takes too much time. You're already at 30 seconds, believe it or not. So I know you probably are not next to the other folks on the call here, but I can guarantee that some folks will probably be around 25 to 30 at this point already. And yeah, I would say you can consider this a competition. Who can circle the most? Keep going. A minute. You're already at a minute. 30 seconds left. Keep going as fast as you can. Again, even if it's visual. So you got a minute, you're a minute 10 and you got 20 seconds left. Keep circling, keep circling. Probably somewhere around 40 by this point. Now you got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stop. All right, Sam, I'm going to ask for your help here. So, all right, folks, tell me, who got more than 30? Put it in the chat box. Give a thumbs up or me or something in the chat box if you got more than 30.
David did.
David got more than 30. Did I see David Alston? Is that who that is?
Yes, it is.
Is that the David Alston that used to work for me years ago? Is that the same David Alston?
He confirmed, yes.
All right, good to see. I thought I saw your name on there, pal. Nice to see you. It's good to know that I hired good talent, huh? So David got over 30. Anybody else get over 30? How about over 20? Usually get most people kind of in that range, over 10.
Chat is active right now, Matt. Greg got 23. Christy got 27.
Good.
Scott got 22.
Good.
Michael got 22. You're going to have to play roulette. Lucky numbers over here.
All right. So next question for the group is, what made that, if you found it easy, what made it easy? Most people don't find that an easy task. Most people find it kind of difficult. So what made that a difficult task for you?
If anyone would like to volunteer, I can promote you to speak personally with Matt, if anyone wants to jump in. David said he'll jump in. Is that all right, Matt?
That's fine with me. That's good.
All right, give me a second here. David Alston, we're going to make him a panelist. David, you just have to unmute yourself and your video.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
I'm well, David. Nice to hear you. Even though I can't see you yet, but it's great to hear you.
Likewise. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting activity. I found it actually pretty difficult to just locate the next number in the sequence that you were looking for. What I tried to do was, if I, for example, if I was on number 5 and came across 7 and 8, to remember where those were as I was looking for the next number being 6. So it was just kind of like trying to get a couple steps ahead through the counting process. Yeah,
that's good pickup, David. Thanks. So it's remembering where you need to go based on where you have to go, right? So you have to find 5, but you need to go to 7. So remembering where you are in that process makes it difficult. So thanks, David. And just by thumbs up or something in the chat, who found it difficult that I was chirping at you the whole time? Put a little pressure on it, saying it was a competition, telling you where you should be, giving a countdown in there.
We had a comment from Christy saying visual memory to remember where ones coming up are. She would volunteer to talk, but she's not on a computer with an audio.
No problem, Christy. Thank you for sharing that.
She
Appreciate it.
also, if you cared, Matt, said yes, it was difficult for you when you chirped at her, and she said she kept telling you to shut up in her mind.
I hear that quite often.
The chirping didn't help from Greg either.
Right. So there's pressure put on the situation, right? So if someone puts pressure on a situation, it becomes more difficult. All right. So we know that it's hard. We've identified some reasons why it's hard. Now we're going to play the game one more time. But this time I'm going to give you some direction. So what I'd like you to do on your piece of paper that you have next to you, I want you to draw 2 lines. I want you to draw a line down the middle of the page between the 61 and the 14, and across the page between the 41 and the 63. So you have 4 quadrants. Okay? Then I'm going to give you the sequence. So you're going to find 1 in the upper left, 2 in the upper right, 3 in the lower left, 4 in the lower right. And that's the sequence that it follows. You have the same amount of time. Ready and go. All right, and stop. All right, by a show of hands, and by hands I mean thumbs up or some acknowledgement in the chat box, who was able to circle more numbers than they did the last time?
Christy said she got 40, Matt.
All right, Christy, killing it. Love it.
Michael seemed to got it. Scott got more. He got up to 37.
Awesome.
David got 5 more numbers. Michael
Awesome.
at 6. Dan at 15. Over twice as many. So people, yeah, seemed to work out.
Great. So, all right. So this is a sales meeting, right? What the hell does all this have to do with sales? How about the fact that if you just proved to yourself, if you have a system, you can do more in less time. That's what you just proved to me. The second time around, I only gave you 60 seconds. I didn't give you a minute and a half. So think about that for a second. First time you had a full minute and a half and you circled however many numbers you circled. The second time you had 30 seconds left. You had 30% less time. And everyone was able to circle more than they did the first time because there was a process in place. Crazy, right? It's pretty amazing the way that that works. So in terms of sales, that's what you just proved. So what is a selling system? So a selling system, it's a series of systematic actions in series, right? It's putting something in place so you know where to go next. I heard a lot of people say the first time around in that exercise that they're trying to remember where they saw this number before and they had to go back to it, and there was no process to it. There was no system to it. There was no methodology to it. So if you put a sales process in place, you will be more likely to sell more in less time. That's the whole crux of today. And we're going to figure out what makes selling hard, right? So I was chirping at you the first time. Second time I wasn't chirping at you, so that made it a little bit easier. You knew where to look for your numbers in certain quadrants. That made it a bit easier. You're familiar with the layout of the page. That was a bit easier. Now, suffice it to say, if I had given you enough time, would you have been able to circle from 0 to 100? You don't have to put that in the chat box. That's a pretty easy question. That's yes, right? Of course. If I gave you enough time, you could have gone from 1 to 100, made it taken you 10 minutes. I don't know. So that's just like today. I'm not telling you that you can't sell well today. I'm here to tell you that you can sell more in less time if you put a process in place. I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to be as pressure-filled as you think it has to be. I'm here to tell you and show you why it's hard to sell today. So it's hard to do that first exercise because we just didn't know. Or it was easier to do the second time around because we knew exactly where to go, right? We knew where to look next. Do we have that level of understanding in our sales process? Maybe some of us do, maybe some of us don't. I'm also going to talk to you a bit about the difference between a sales process and a sales system and methodology. So that's a methodology. So what are some of the benefits? I'd like you, if anybody wants to chime in and be participatory here, let Sam know. You can come on and verbalize what the answer is, or if you feel more comfortable putting it in the chat box, that's absolutely fine. What are some other benefits of putting a selling system in place? Use your noggins. What are some benefits of putting a selling system in place? I know it takes a little bit of time to type as well.
If anyone would like to jump on audio at a minimum, or audio and video, just mess it in the chat. Donald said, an easy and repeatable process.
Awesome. And the benefit of it being repeatable is that you don't have to make it up every time, right? How many times I work with sales folks that they make the sales call up every time they go in. There's no process to it. Go ahead, Sam.
Christy mentioned a strategy and a roadmap to follow it.
Strategy. I love that. Yes. If we put something in place, we follow it. It's a plan of action, right?
We got one more. David, organize your day-to-day task, follow-ups, and execution.
Yep. Very good. Those are all good benefits of a selling system. So here are some other benefits of a selling system. So you maintain control of the call. And we're going to talk about that in detail, as maintaining control of the call. A lot of times what I find is salespeople lose control of the sales call. The exercise showed us that we can save time. We can stay on track. So what's it mean to stay on track? So it's easy for many of us because many of us in sales have an outgoing personality, right? We're extroverts. We like to talk. We like to have it be about us. So what we can do with a selling system, if we put it in place, it'll help us keep us on track. Now, I'm a soccer guy. I've been playing soccer since I was yay high, played up to a couple of years ago. And there's a process, and we know it. And if you watch soccer, or any sport, whatever it is. So in soccer, it's you bring it down the wings, you cross it to the middle. Your predictability of being successful and scoring a goal goes up. Bring it down the wing, cross it to the middle. Bring it down the wing, cross it to the middle. We can duplicate those positive results with a system, which is super important, right? So will we score goals by, a scrum in the box, the ball just getting kicked around and bouncing off of people? Yeah, but we can't count on it, right? You can't count on the ball bouncing off of someone, but I can count on the ball coming down the sideline and putting it to the middle. So a selling system allows us to duplicate results. It also allows us to debrief our calls. So when I get done with a call, I can say to myself, all right, how did that go? And it's not just how did that go and went well, didn't go well. It's, did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? If I don't have that checklist, how do I possibly debrief a call? It turns into, hey, my boss saying to me, hey, Matt, how'd the call go? Oh, it was good. It was all right. Well, that's not debriefing a sales call. Debriefing a sales call is, what questions did you ask? What pain did you uncover? How did you get to personal impact of that pain? Do you figure out how much money the prospect has to invest, is willing and able to invest? Do you understand what their decision-making process is? If I have that, then I can debrief. And I can also recognize the problems of where I went off the rails. So there are some major advantages of putting a selling methodology in place. Any comments on that? Questions? Okay.
Matt, we did have one question. Just in general, will the slides be provided afterwards?
The slides, unfortunately, will not be provided afterwards. That's Sandler considers that their intellectual property, and I get a major fine if I share them. So I apologize, but unfortunately not.
So take notes.
What you could do, and wink and a nod, is screenshot what you need to screenshot. And if you need me to go back on something, I'll go back on something. And I can't stop you, wouldn't stop you from doing that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So if we put a process in place, what results can we expect when we put a process in place? What results of a sales call can we expect when we put a sales process in place? And I'm not going to make you guys guess at that. I'll share. So clearly, if we're in a sales call, one thing we'd love to hear is, yes, I'm interested. I want to buy. Another acceptable answer is no. And I live for go for the no. It saves me time. I hate chasing people. I hate the, hey, just checking in. Hey, what's going on? Hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. Just tell me no, right? And I can learn from it. No, Matt, we're not going to do it because X, Y, Z. Fair? So a yes, a no, a referral, and let's spend a second on a clear, well-understood future. If we put together a clear, understood future, we won't get those, hey, I'll call you next week's. That's not well understood. That's not clear. That's about as cloudy as you can get. What a clear next step is, hey, Bob, let's meet next Tuesday at 2 o'clock for 20 minutes. And the purpose of that meeting is for us to decide whether we should be taking a next step in a business arrangement or not. That's clear. So think about the results that you can get from putting a system in place. All right. So I've talked up to now about putting, the benefits of a system. We learned what the importance of putting a selling system or methodology in place. We learned that there's benefits to it. We learned that there's clear next steps involved in it. But how do you put this into your business? So there's a difference between a selling system and a selling process. So I'm going to share with you a selling process. This would be an example. And this is kind of almost what I use today in my CRM. And these gates are my CRM stages for opportunities. So I have someone in prospecting in my CRM. I have a first phone call. I have a meeting one. Actually, I don't have a meeting two. I try to close things in a single call, and then a signed agreement. But if you'll notice, those selling gates are very well defined. There's nothing wishy-washy about it. The middle column talks about what are the things that need to be done at that gate? What has to happen? And then the third column are what are my go, no-go features from that selling gate? And if you don't have this documented and written down for your company, I suggest that you do it so when you expand and grow and hire salespeople, you can give them this kind of cookbook, for lack of a better word, of how to sell in your company. So you take this sales process that you create, and then you overlay your methodology over the top of the sales process. So this is where I'm going to go to that next tool that that Sam was so nice to send out for me. So this is your selling gates. So you don't have to do this now. It's only an hour session, which isn't a whole heck of a lot of time. But I would like you to take a minute or two just to understand the methodology of filling this out. Do you understand what a selling gate is? I'll give you another example. If I were to tell you all to go create a bonfire in the backyard, and I told you to list out the steps for me to create that campfire, bonfire, you could probably do that. First, you need to find a place, then you need to find the wood, then you need to make sure that you have music and drinks, and then you have to put it out. You know, whatever those things are, those are selling gates. So what is it in your world? Most everybody start with prospecting. You got to find prospects, right? And then what are the prospecting activities that you participate in? And then what are the things that tell you whether they should be moved to the next gate or not? So on the prospecting side, clearly it's, you know, they've agreed to a phone call. Or there's some surface level pain that we think that we can fix for them. So I want to pause here, and I want to give everybody just 2 minutes to write down. I don't want you to fill out column 2 or 3. But I want you to take your best stab at filling out the first column. What are your selling gates? If you would like my input or have questions, raise your hand, put it in the chat, come on live. I don't care, but I'm going to give you a minute or two to start to fill this out. If you have it electronically, I think it is a fillable PDF. You just have to make sure you save it appropriately.
And
Okay, Sam, you gotta let me know.
I did reshare it in the chat a few times, the link to the Google Drive where you can export it out.
Thanks. Let me know if anybody jumps in there.
Will do.
Just by a quick, as you're filling this out, maybe you already all have this done, and I'm thinking that you might not. So if you already have a document like this, you know, just give me a something in the chat says, you know, this is, or already have it or something like that. This really is important as you scale your business. This is important when you hire your first salesperson. So I'm going to guess there might be some solopreneurs online here who are doing the selling. When you figure out what works, write it down, document it. Figure out what are the things that are important to move from gate to gate. And you might have things in there, you know, one of your gates might be have to have an NDA signed. Or one of your gates might be, I've done a demo. Or one of your gates might be, my client's done a site visit. So this is just a suggestion slide. And get that off the screen for you. Sorry about the lighting. I forgot it gets dark early. I'm surprised you guys are still awake. Most of the trainings that I do are in the morning. All right, any comments, questions, concerns on this?
Yeah, we have a couple inquiries in the chat here, Matt. Scott, we went through a training that suggested 8 contacts to get a customer consulting work. This must be the customer.
Okay.
Would the majority of those touches all be a part of prospecting?
Yes, they absolutely could be. Yep. My experience is I have to tap someone on the shoulder 8 to 10 times before they talk to me, and then they get thrown into the sales funnel.
Scott, did you want to jump on and have any follow-up questions with that? He said thank you, so he might be good.
Okay. Yeah, so Scott, in that instance, while you're making those 8 to 10 touches, those would be the things to do that need to happen in the gate, right? Contact them until they respond. But they stay as a prospecting gate until they engage with you. Anything else in there, Sam? Gotta unmute. Can't hear you.
Not at the moment, Matt. Maybe people are taking some time to do the activity. Michael, learn Sandler selling in 1982 and have this ingrained in my process.
All right. Well, thank you, Michael. It's glad to see that some things get retained, and I'm not just talking to a screen. Good stuff. Thanks for your input.
David seems to have a question. Shoot it as David, or if you want to jump on audio, just let us know.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Matt, right now, I'm working with something you may be familiar with. I'm managing Babe Ruth nationally within the platform. And a lot of this for me, obviously with the partnership, being 4+ years, and now I'm starting at meeting one. I would say within the gate where I've talked to these, I've already done all the initial phone calls in the years past. And a lot of the calls that I'm having now are really at that meeting one gate. So what I'm looking to do is specifically handling it nationally is I'm dealing with a much larger group of customers instead of one single state, is how I can work faster to get from meeting one to basically the signed agreement. And I don't know if maybe there's things I can automate in my process that would help me do that, but I'm just trying to expedite my process at this point to obtain more customers.
Understood. And part of, I'll start to answer that question a little bit in about 5 to 7 minutes. But really, David, the big things for you are session 2 and session 3. So session 2 and 3 are all about the qualification stages of deciding whether someone is a qualified prospect or not a qualified prospect quickly and decisively, so you can decide whether they're in or out. So that's a qualification question to me. Is that good? Okay. So can I switch gears on you folks? Unless there are any other questions. Sam, did I miss anything in there?
Nope.
Okay.
We're all caught up on chat.
All right. So I'm going to switch gears on you. And again, this is an interactive piece. I want you guys to put in the chat box, finish the sentence for me. And try to keep it to things within our control, right? Don't tell me that no, whatever. I'm trying to keep it within our control. The question or the sentence that I want you to finish is this: I could sell more if, and you fill in the blank. Help me out. I could sell more if. Anybody got anything in there?
Yes, I have a couple of responses here, Matt. I could sell more if I had more brand awareness, from Christy.
Good.
I could sell more if I could hire a clone, from Michael.
Fair.
I could sell more if I spent more time selling, from Gregory.
Okay. Good.
Most of our responses at the moment.
Yep, and those are all very good responses. These are the most typical ones that I hear. I could sell more if our solution was less, or if I had more time, if I had more leads, whether I went out and got them and prospected more, or marketing brought them in for me. I could sell more if my sales cycle wasn't so long. I could sell more if I didn't get a TIO as a think it over. I'm sure nobody on this call gets a think it over. So a think it over is you get in a great conversation. I'm talking to Sam about using the services at Sandler Training, and Sam says, Matt, this sounds freaking awesome. I love it. Tell you what, I'll think it over and I'll get back to you next week. Think it overs. They kill us. They absolutely kill us. All right. So we know these are very common issues or problems. We all have our own issues or problems. Now, the important part, one, is identifying what the problem is for you. And the second part of that is understanding why these things happen. Okay, why is it hard? So before I even move slides, why don't you guys tell me, what are some of the words that you hear or phrases that are associated with salespeople? This ought to be fun. So what phrases are associated with salespeople? Sam, I'm going to need you.
Nope, I'm here. Pushy from Greg.
Yep. What else do we hear?
Sleazy.
It's true. We hear these things. What else?
And aggressive.
Yep.
From David, I have to jump on a meeting. Thank you, Matt. Looking forward to session 2 and 3. Can you send me over the information? Yes, David. And the thank you email for attending. There's a feedback form and the link to part 2 of this series.
All right.
You'll on our social media and Ignite You if you do follow us. From Michael, back on track here. Persistent, successful, innovative, a resource, consultative.
So I love that, Michael. So is that the way you see salespeople, or is that the way salespeople are seen by the general public? I love it. And not you specifically, right? Because I'm sure if you've been around a bit, you are a consultative salesperson. But in general, what are salespeople thought of? And those first words are right. Sleazy, pushy, misleading, self-serving. We hear those things all the time.
He said that's the way he sees a good salesperson.
A good salesperson. You're right. I'm with you 100%. Unfortunately, the vast majority of salespeople are not good salespeople, which is what makes our job hard. Because as Michael says, and as people on this call know, we don't want to be like every other salesperson. We don't want to be pushy. We don't want to do all those things. We don't want to be conceived as sleazy. We don't want to be conceived as that person who's trying to make us do something that we don't want to do. But there are so many bad salespeople out there that, unfortunately, these are the things that we have to unwind with our prospects. They don't know you the first time you call them, so they're going to put up some fences. Comment, Sam?
Yeah, to backtrack on a previous part, in terms of if I had more sales, I found a different part. It was in Q&A from CB. I thought it was worth retouching on. If I had more quality referrals, I don't know if you have any comments about that.
No, they're absolutely right. And so all this stuff happens for a reason. We don't get quality referrals for a reason. We get think it overs for a reason. Our sales cycles are long for a reason. And that's what I want to talk to you about for a few minutes now, is why are these things happening? Well, they're happening because of all those things, those preconceived notions people have about salespeople. But there is a traditional sales model in play that people follow, salespeople follow. Untrained salespeople fall into this type of traditional selling system. So I have 5 steps on the slide right there. They're not in order. The exercise is for you to help me put them in order. So think about when you first walk on, and please, if anybody has anybody in the car sales business, I'm going to pick on car sales just because it's easy and most of us have done it. So there are some super, really good car sales people out there. So this is not about anybody specific. So think about when you walk onto a lot. What's the first thing that happens from the salesperson? What's the first thing that happens out of those 5 things? Put it in the chat.
In the meantime, Matt, Christy had a comment on perceptions of salespeople.
Yep.
A good salesperson would never try to sell something to another they don't need or want to make money, to make them money.
You're right. Unfortunately, there's a lot of not good salespeople out there. I'm with you, Christy.
Gregor had a response to the most recent question: qualify for interest.
That's right. 100%. Nobody else even has to put it in there. So the big issue that standard salespeople have is that they mistake someone's interest for them to being qualified to purchase. Now, I walk onto a Porsche lot. I have an interest in buying a Porsche. I'm not qualified to buy a Porsche, right? So just because someone shows interest in your product or service does not mean that they're qualified to sell. The standard salespeople mistake that interest for qualification. So what's the second thing that happens? They qualify for interest, then what happens?
I'm gonna go over to Christy. She had a comment as Gregor responds back to your question. The best salespeople I've worked with had excellent relationships with their buyers, where they even let the salesperson write the orders for their stores. As a product developer, the salespeople we heard from often were the absolute highest performers.
Couldn't agree more. And I'll show proof to that when we get a little bit further, Christy.
And then Gregor responded to your question, what happens next? Present.
That's right. Think about it. You walk on a lot, someone says, hey, what brings you in today? Well, I'm looking for a car. Oh, well, let me show you this beauty over here. This one's a 2018. It's only got 8,000 miles on it. And then we get into that feature benefit thing, right? Here's all the features of our product, and here's the benefit. Here's the features, and here's the benefit. So, and before I even know really what the heck you're looking for. So that's right. Weak qualification. They mix it up with interest. Second thing that happens is they present very early in the sales process. And then once they present, what do they have to do next? Or what do they try to do next?
Scott says, number 3, overcome objections.
I love to think that that they did that early, Scott. Typically, they try to close you at that point. So I'd say, why don't we come on in and sit down? You know, why don't you come off the lot? Why don't we go in and sit down? So they try to close you. So they try that trial close. And then the pushbacks come. Well, you know, I was really looking for something with some better gas mileage. Or, you know, I wasn't really looking to spend, you know, $30,000. I was looking to spend $25,000. So they have to overcome that objection. And then they have to go back and present. And they try to reclose. And then there's another objection. And then they have to go back and represent. And this cycle happens, and salespeople get caught, the bad salespeople, again, unfortunately the majority, get caught in this cycle. It's like a washing machine. And I swear to God, I was in the pharmaceutical sales industry. They taught us that this was normal. There's nothing normal about this, but it happens. And then the last piece of it is they end up chasing you. So here it is in order. They qualify for interest. They present, they try to close you. You say no, they have to overcome objections. And then that cycle, that 2, 3, 4 happens 6, 7 times. And then the chase occurs. And then the chase is, you know, that's the, hey, just checking in. Anybody go to try to buy a car? How many voicemails do you get from the guy or woman trying to sell it to you? And then they get put in voicemail jail, the salesperson, right? Hey, just checking in. Hey, I love that just checking in email. So because this happens on a regular basis, think about your trips to Target. Think about your trips to to buy a phone. Think about your trips to buy a car. Think about your trips where anytime a salesperson is involved, this happens, unfortunately, the majority of time. And as a result of this happening, prospects, us buyers, have developed our own system to combat that. So here's the buyer system. What happens on the buyer side? What do you think the first thing is that happens? So think about it. You walk onto the lot, someone says, hey, Sam, what are you looking for? What do you say, Sam? Typically it says, oh, just looking. Right? So they're withholding information from you that is important. True story. My kid wrecked his car about 6 years ago. He's going to Hudson Valley, need a car. My wife works, I work. We needed to buy a car. I went up to the Leah lot up the street from my house. I walk on the lot. The guy says, how can I help you? I'm like, I'm just looking. I need to buy a car. I'm in pain. And I lied to the guy, withhold information. That's the first step. What's the second part? What do you think comes next after withholding information?
Gather from Gregor.
Gregor's got it down, man. He's seen this before. That's right. You gather information. What's it sound like? Sounds anything like, can you tell me how much your system cost? Can you give me a price? Can you give me specs? Can you send me a proposal? What makes you different? So they're trying to gather all this information. Can I take it for a test drive? Can I see the, what's the MSRP? Can I see the blue book value? Whatever it is, they're trying to get information for free. What's the next piece?
Christy did have a comment, Matt.
Okay, Christy.
It is bad when I sign up for a webinar just to learn more about the content and company. I suppose, however, it's far second. They call my phone and send multiple emails trying to set up a meeting / close before I know anything really about them.
So yes, that happens a lot. So if I heard Sam right, and hopefully I heard Sam right, it sounds like sometimes we try to close business without knowing enough about the prospect. Is that what I heard, Sam? Paraphrased?
Yeah, but I think from the other side is if Christy were to have been the buyer, her experience with salespeople.
Right. So the next piece of it is they commit to nothing. Right? They gather all this information to you. They commit to nothing. This all looks great, Sam. This is wonderful. We'll call you next week. And then they disappear. Those are the last two pieces of this. So they withhold information from you, and then they disappear. And these two systems are they're constantly butting heads throughout the entire process. And that's what makes selling hard, is that your prospects just think that they're going to get treated a certain way because that's what they're expecting. That's the way they've been treated forever. So here's the next question for the group. Who's in control of this process? Is it the buyer or is it the seller?
Buyer per Gregor.
Unfortunately, it is. It's the buyer. So that's where we step in as sales professionals, and this is what I call wimp junction. Right? So if we know all this stuff happens, do we have the guts to do the things to break out of the standard sales cycle? Do we have the process in place? Do we have the fortitude to stick with our process to break out of this whole thing? Right? So when the prospect is in control, we don't have control. And when the prospect is in control, we don't have equal business stature. And the biggest thing that we want to try to do is try to make sure that we get on equal business stature with our prospects. So if I were to ask anybody on this call, what makes your company or your product or your service any different than anybody else, I'm sure you could all tell me. Typical things I hear is that we have great service, our speed is great, reputation's great. So if I said to you, guess what, you're all fired, and you have to go work for your competition, and I ask you what makes your company great, or your product or your service, you say the same things. Price. Our price is great. Our reputation is great. Our service is great. Our speed is great. So the reality is the only thing that separates you from your competition is you. And Christy I think it was Christy that pointed to it earlier, that said the successful salespeople are those who build relationships. And that's where I want to introduce you to the Sandler selling system. So you notice at the very first part of this submarine, I know the submarine's a little bit goofy, deal with it. I've been dealing with it for years. The first two compartments, the bonding and rapport and setting upfront contracts. Those two pieces are your relationship phases of the selling process. They don't go away. Your building of rapport, your bonding with your prospect never goes away. But it's right up front. It's super important. Those are things like understanding their disc style and how to talk to them, understanding how they like to consume information, whether they're auditory, whether they're visual, whether they're kinesthetic. It's understanding what ego state they're in, if they're acting like a child or an adult, and how to get them in the right ego state. It's understanding what our elements of communication are, and our body language and our tonality and our spoken word. And it's understanding and having a good idea of how to actively listen. That's all part of our rapport building. Our upfront contracts are taking control of individual calls as well as the entire sales cycle. It's setting expectations, why we're getting together, how long we're going to get together, what's on your agenda, what's on my agenda, and what are the acceptable outcomes. Those things, those first two phases help put us on equal business stature with people. What we're going to spend session 2 and 3 on are these 3 middle compartments in the Sandler subsystem. The 3 middle compartments are the qualification phases. Next week, we're going to spend an hour talking about pain. In Sandler world, pain means a compelling reason to do business. We're going to talk about the importance of getting to personal impact. We're going to talk about the pain gap. We're going to talk about the pain funnel. We're going to talk about how to uncover pain. What are pain questions that we could ask? In session 3, we're going to talk about uncovering the prospect's budget. What are they willing and able to invest in taking care of the problem that you've uncovered? We're going to talk about how to uncover their decision-making process, which is one of the most overlooked pieces of qualification that there is. Do you understand who is making the decision? What's being decided, when it's being decided, where it's being decided within the organizational structure, why it's being decided in the way that it's decided, and how it's decided. You understand all those things. And until you have a pain that you can address for your prospect, and you can fix that pain in a budget that they're willing and able to invest, and that you understand their decision-making process and you're willing to play by those rules, the prospect is not qualified. I'm going to bring you back to the seller's system. Right up front, Gregor was spot on when he said the second thing that happens after they qualify for interest is they present. In the Sandler world, those last 2 compartments, fulfillment is our presentation phase. We don't present a solution until we know that the prospect is qualified to hear the solution. We're not going to give away free consulting. We're going to put ourselves on equal business stature with our prospect. And then the post-sell is making sure that we set ourselves up for future business and what comes next. So I forget the gentleman's name that brought it up earlier, but was talking about we don't get enough referrals. Well, is that part of your post-sell? When you button something up with a client, are you saying, hey, Sam, it's great. You've made a great decision to work with Sandler Training. This is awesome. I'd like your permission to come back in 2 months after you've been using the system for a little while, and I'm going to ask you for a couple of referrals. Would that be all right? Do we do that on a regular basis? So this is the Sandler selling system. We're going to, again, be spending time on those middle 3 compartments over the next 2 weeks, the qualification phases. So I've been talking for like the last 7 minutes, which is probably too long. Sam, anything in the chat box? Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns as we close in on 427?
We had a comment from Christy. You really need to know a lot about your prospect and what truly motivates them.
Christy, you're right on, girl. 100%.
So Christy will be teaching part 2.
That's right.
Yeah.
I can take a little break. I got no problem with that. I don't have a big ego. I'm sure there's people that are smarter than me out there.
Christy said LOL with a bunch of exclamation points. And then we have Jason asking, can you go over the upfront contract again?
Yes, I'll be happy to. So the upfront contract, and we're not going to spend too much time on this. Jason, if you want specific information after, if we run out of time, just contact me. I'll be happy to spend 15 minutes with you. But the upfront contract has 5 parts to it. It has the purpose of the meeting, of why you're getting together, the time that you're going to be getting together for, making sure that you understand the prospect's agenda, making sure the prospect understands your agenda, and making sure that there are outlined acceptable outcomes. And it's an upfront contract. So the contract means that the definition of a contract are mutually agreed upon terms. So this is not telling the prospect what's going to happen. This is asking their permission. Hey, if we do this. So an upfront contract might sound something like, hey, Sam, my understanding of us getting together for the next hour, so time, is to make sure that Sandler will fill the gaps for your training needs for 2021 purpose. Is that accurate? Asking for confirmation. Yep. Great, Sam. Over the next hour, what are the 2 or 3 things that you want to make sure that you address? Prospect's agenda. Great. Here are the things that I'd like to know about you, what you've tried in the past. And I'm going to tell them all the things that I want to talk to, my agenda. And then by the end of the hour, Sam, can we agree that one of 3 things will probably happen? Either A, you're going to decide that Sandler is the best thing since sliced bread, and you're going to sign on. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but that's a potential outcome. Another outcome could be that either at the end of the hour or anytime during the hour, either you or me, one of us could decide that we're not a good fit for each other. And we could decide that there's no reason to move forward. Remember, going for that no, going back all the way back to that first or second slide. But more likely what will happen is that we'll figure out that there's probably some reason to take a next step. And at that point, we'll define what that clear next step is. Is that acceptable to you? So that's an upfront contract. Hopefully that's helpful, Jason. We're at 4:30. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Sam, do we have any last minute questions, comments?
Not that I have seen come in yet, but we'll give the audience a last minute or so to ask any final questions. Some final housekeeping. You guys will receive an email through Eventbrite from us asking to complete a feedback form. We'd really appreciate that so we can continue improving our virtual events throughout this 2020 time. In that email, you will see a link to register for part 2 of this of the next workshop, which I believe, Matt, is focused on identifying your prospects' pain points.
That's right.
And then part 3 is going to be on November 24th. That registration link will be live by next week. We'd appreciate if you guys would follow Ignite U to stay up to date on our future events. Those like part 2 and part 3 of this workshop, and also follow Sandler Training Albany on Facebook and LinkedIn, and connect with Matt on LinkedIn. Some comments in this chat. We already got some great feedback, Matt. So I appreciate you organizing this and hosting it. Great. This was good to go over again from Christy. Gregor, this has been great. Gregor, thanks to Matt. So appreciate you, Matt, hosting this. Everyone here in the call, please, come and join us for part 2 on the 17th. That's next Tuesday, the same time. You'll get the registration link on that, and you can also follow our social media to stay up to date on these workshops and future ones to come. Anything else to close out, Matt?
Nope. I'll just put my contact information up there real quick before I hang up. If anybody wants to take a screenshot, write it down. Any questions, comments, concerns directly from me, happy to have a chat.
I appreciate the support here, Matt. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for logging on and participating. Sam, thanks so much for your help. I couldn't have done it without you.
It was a fun time. So everyone, we hope to see you next time. Thank you for joining
All
us.
right. Take care, guys.
Have a good evening, everyone. Stay healthy.